Julie and Julia from 2009. The IMDb description is Julia Child's story of her start in the cooking profession is intertwined with blogger Julie Powell's 2002 challenge to cook all the recipes in Julia Child's first book. So it's basically two parallel stories. Meryl Streep plays Julia Child, and Amy Adams plays Julie Powell. They're set in totally different times. Obviously, one in the 40s in Paris and in Europe, and the other in Queens, New York, right after 9/11. And it's sort of this great, beautiful uh, storyline of these two women finding their purpose through food, and also in a way underlining the love that they share with their husbands, who are amazingly supportive and very much part of this whole journey. So yeah, so why this movie is my number one is because this is the movie that I feel like where it all began for me when it comes to my active relationship with food. I think Ratatouille got me started and got me thinking, but this movie kind of really pushed me all the way. So, for context, I watched this movie when I just moved to Los Angeles after my grad school here in the Bay Area. I'd been there for about, I think, 3, 4 months. I barely knew anybody in LA. This is before you and I had met. And I just was feeling a little bit fish out of water, you know? Work was new, no real friends, this massive, expansive city that felt really overwhelming. And I watched this movie and it somehow spoke to me in a personal way that, oh, what if I started to cook, and follow some cookbook, and that could be a purpose. It started in a very sort of trivial way to just keep me engaged and keep me happy because I always cared about food, like we've been talking. So I was like, sure, why not? So I went to Barnes and Nobles when one used to go to those places, uh, in the cooking aisle, and I had heard, or maybe me and my sister or mom had conversations about Jamie Oliver, who's a British chef, and I just randomly picked his book. The book looked beautiful, the recipes looked really tasty, kind of world cuisine, but I would say with a bit of an Italian bent. And I just started cooking through it, not necessarily every recipe, but just here and there. And it's kind of lit up my life. I couldn't wait every day to get back home and cook what I was cooking next. And it kind of just unlocked from there on. I ended up taking a French cooking class in LA for 5 months, started cooking, started having people over. Then, of course, you and I met and gone, to so many restaurants and have our own food journeys. But I owe it a lot to this movie for getting that started in me. But I think I've been thinking a lot about as to why did this movie do this to me, and I think it is about that there's really no age or time in your life where you can find a purpose. And Julia Child was in her 40s and had done odd jobs here and there, and had no desire or ambition of being something, what she ended up becoming, and just sort of found her way through this. So I think that really spoke to me, that we can always find our purpose no matter what. I also think this movie does a great job in showing that whatever your passion might be, whatever it is that you're interested in, you have to spend time on it. You have to be persistent. There's so many scenes of them messing it up, whatever they're cooking. Amy Adams' character is having meltdowns often in her small little kitchen in Queens, trying to prepare stuff, and it's not going well. Or Julia Child's book with her co-authors, it takes many, many attempts to get it published because that book is unpublishable in the beginning. It's so huge, they almost scrap it and then restart. So I love that part of as well, that it could be applicable to one dish that you're making or just life in general. Whatever your passion might be, you have to stay with it. So I think that really spoke to me. I think we touched a lot on sharing food, with the people you love. And the scenes in this movie of Julia Child and Paul Child, played by Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci, just reveling over food and just going speechless because something just tastes so delicious and beautiful. I can't get enough of those scenes. And it reminded me of, my time with my family, going out and eating and just feeling that feeling of blissfulness of enjoying what we were eating. And since then this has carried on with friends and dinners we've had. Robert, who's my boyfriend, with him, he may not be as big of a foodie, but he does love good food. And nothing gives me more joy when I've made something that he appreciates, or we go out and we've gotten something and he appreciates this. An instant kind of lightning moment for me when that happens to people that I love and care. And I think this movie really captures that. And then last but not the least, I think this movie also marks my obsession slash fascination slash love affair with Meryl Streep. I'd only watched, I think, Devil Wears Prada before this. That was the last movie I'd seen before I left India to come to the US, and really enjoyed the movie. I'd heard her name, but I never watched any of her stuff before. And then a year or two later, watched this movie and just couldn't believe my eyes that it was the same person, and was just so transfixed by it, and then made a vow to go and watch everything that she'd done. And I sort of did that in the next few years, and rest is history. And I'm sure she's going to come up a lot in our podcast in various ways in my love for movies and how movies have shaped me. But I think this movie is also seminal in that sense. And then in closing, I think this movie now has become the movie I watch when I move to a new city or a new apartment, and the furniture is set up, the kitchen is set up. I would usually open a good bottle of wine. I'm pretty tired to really cook anything. I'd order something in, and the movie that I'm playing is this one. It's sort of become my own personal housewarming movie. Of course, I watch it, otherwise as well, but that is now a tradition because I have moved a bunch in the last, 10, 12 years. So it's carried on with me in that sense that, life is okay. We are here now. And I think there's a line that Amy Adams says that there's something beautiful that if you whisk eggs, sugar, chocolate, and flour, it's all going to work. And that's the feeling I get in watching this movie, even though it's corny as hell, but I love it.
Nice. Wow. I mean, I knew you loved this movie. I didn't actually realize that it was your, like the cornerstone of your Meryl Streep appreciation, that was kind of starting that. And everyone does, or not everyone, I should say, most people do have that like film that they watch, like when they first set up their new TV or move. And that's great that this movie does all those things for you. So I'm not surprised to hear it's on your list or at number one. I didn't realize how special that this film was to you until hearing this. Is really, really cool. So for me, I'd seen the film on television the first time. So maybe like a year or two after it came out. Did not see it in theaters. What I took away from it was just a new appreciation, or not a new, just an appreciation for Julia Child. Like she was I just knew her as a pop culture figure. I had no idea what she kind of did, what the impact that she had was on cooking in the United States, bringing French cooking to the US, to just, suburban America. I just did not realize that at all until this film. And then the other message I got from it was something you touched on too, that it's like never too late to find your passion, but you stick with it, persistence, like those two things. Like you just stick with it. It doesn't matter when you start, you stick with it and you'll be able to succeed or, get what you need out of that, which is just great life advice. So those are the main two things that I took away from it. But it's a delightful film. I think it's really fun. Both performances are fantastic.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.